So I heard a lot of different offers coming from a lot of different places. So is part of this that it's not just the technology integrator that's offering tech now? I mean, are we starting to see HVAC and electrical contractors say, well, I can kind of sort of do that too, and then does that create, I'm seeing some heads nodded back there, that's like, which source am I going to use for this? Is that?
It's not just which source you're going to use, it's that a lot of the sources are, quote unquote free. And so clients, ultimately, even in the luxury space, I've only had a few that don't actually have budgets, right? And so even in the luxury space, it seems that clients start trying to Graham's point, pick and choose what technology they're going to use. Certainly, getting them to pay for technology design, they know that's going to start adding up to dollar signs more and more and more. And they say, oh, well, this app does this and this app, and I'm going to cobble something together.
That's true. The first thing that gets value engineered out is the technology. And then your Amazon shopping, Alexa can control my lights, and Alexa, turn on the lights.
Home Depot and get Alexa to turn them on and off.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, being technology design house, whoever you use, whether it's a Savant's internal services, whether it's Sean, whether it's responsive living, is we have to show that there is actual value to providing this technology design up front. And at the end, I'll kind of show you, one is how you can get ROI on that, and the different levels that we can kind of enter with that client on to not necessarily scare them away, but just a lot of it's education. They don't know what they don't know. And again, I'm not knocking, because I work with the professional installation network every single day of my life, but they are biased, right? When I was with Savant for many years, I was biased, right? Savant was the best damn product, and I still very much highly think that Savant's an amazing product. But as an AV integrator, they are biased, and you guys know that, right? This isn't a secret. Your HVAC guy's probably biased. They are going to sell you a solution that works. They don't want to come back out to your house and have to refurb it or service it. So they're working with good products. But they're also going to sell you and your client the product that is most efficient for their firm, right? That's easy for them to get, right? Some products like Savant, Savant will tell two out of every 3 customers that they can't access the product because they're not a qualified enough company for it, right? They don't have enough programmers on staff. They don't have enough talent on staff. They don't have IT talent on staff. So the guy that only has access to products through distribution is going to tell you guys that that is the best product in the world. And they're telling you it's the best product in the world because it's the only product they have access to. And the Savant guy may be pushing Savant because Savant can make him a fortune selling that video over IP tiling. I was at a recent show at IBS, and a customer came up. He's like, man, I got this Control 4 quote, and I got the Savant quote. One of them's $150,000, one's $110,000. I said, $100 says the Savant one has something called video over IP in it. He goes, it does. What is that? I'm like, that's your $50,000 difference right there. That end user has no idea what that $50,000 thing is in their budget. A technology consulting or service firm up front can just be like, hey, here's what these things are, here's what they do, what's valuable or what's important to you as a homeowner, and in terms of the architect, in terms of that design intent of that home. Another thing I want to talk about, there's more of Paul's world, but is supply chain, right? You guys' projects are 1, 2, 3 years long from initial design to when it's finished. How often have you guys gotten towards the end of that project and the supplier, whether it's Lutron or Vantage or Savant or whatever, they've changed the hardware that we're originally planning or designing into that system, whether it's the keypads, whether it's the head end, whatever it may be. With a technology design firm, we're working hand in hand with the manufacturers and with the professional installers. So we have visibility into products changing. So we know when we're designing a home that's not going to be built for 3 years down the road, and Lutron moves from Radio Rod 2 to Radio Rod 3, or Savant moves to the next generation of energy module, then we're able to make those adjustments in real time on actual construction drawings and send that over to you guys, and it doesn't create a problem at the end of the job.
Well,
Hey, go ahead.
sorry, I feel like I can say this now that I'm not part of an integration company anymore, but the integrator's dirty little secret is that we do 2 things because we have to, not necessarily because we want to, right? One of them is designing and engineering technology. There were no such things. There's really very few technology architects, which is what Dan and I are trying to undertake now. It's very difficult to conceive of building a home without a set of architectural drawings before you get started. So the better integrators built design and engineering departments to serve that purpose. And the other piece is project management. If we could just install it and send our techs out there and not have to manage the project or manage the process with you, we would do it all day long. It's a very expensive thing for an integrator to do, especially when they're working on 50 to 100 projects at a time in a particular location. As now a consultant, I don't do 50 projects at a time. I'll do 6 or 7 projects at a time. I have a lot more time to pay attention to it, and the outcome is a lot more important to me because I'm representing the builder and the client in that process. So the outcome's better, the timing is better, the number of change orders we run into is lower, and it's just a better all-around approach, just the same way you'd hire an architect to design your home.
Yeah. And I've seen plenty of bids from integrators that come to you guys in which there's a design fee on there, right? A design fee could be $10,000, it could be $50,000. But they immediately rebate that design fee off on the hardware. They say, as long as you buy the hardware through me and let me install it, I'm going to take this design fee off, right? So they're spending a lot of time on something that they're not great at, and then they're trying to offset that cost through pricing up the high hardware and the hourly rate higher. We believe, and we've talked to enough professional installers out there that say, hey, if you guys were to do all this design for us, right, and tell us exactly what needs to be ordered, exactly what the budgets are, the products, the SKUs, and actually give us a blueprint of how these things need to be connected, not only connected within the smart technology, but connected with the solar system or the battery system, connected with a cogen system or a standby generator, connected with an HVAC system, right? I mean, when you're talking about these big homes and a customer wants to have some type of renewable energy powering that home, and the mechanical guy specs in a 5-ton HVAC system, now the battery and the generator and or the solar don't have enough juice to even power that HVAC unit, right? But your mechanical guy's already come in, made that decision, and now that homeowner is stuck. If the power goes out, they don't have enough juice in their inverter and in their battery to fire up that HVAC system. So it's like, well, hey, we could have designed in a mini split system here at the beginning and separated that up, and you could have fired up, the right wing of your home, right? You could have shut off the other wing of your home. So we're thinking through not just the smart things, but the interoperability between every single system within that $100 million home, which is, you have to have dedicated time to do that and get into the drawings, get into the CAD, get into the Revit, work with the architect, work with the builder, work with the contractors to make sure we're doing everything holistically.
And the other engineers, right, the MEP guys, they all have controls now too. And they're saying, hey, I want to use this. And like, no, we need to make sure it goes through the technology hub.
Do you face this, maybe you're so high-end that you don't face the same concerns we heard over in the corner there?
Well, we felt it. We felt it, which is why we kind of moved around to bringing it in early. We felt it. We've been through it. I said 10 years ago. It's probably more like 15. Yeah. We felt that strain, like what's going on here? And then as the technology moved quickly, like Larry said, it got so fast, we had to catch up to that too. Yeah. And we are doing clean air systems that are controlled with Savant. Yeah. We are doing the lighting controls that's through Savant. And that main brain is all through one hub, yep. and that makes it so much simpler.
But they were saying that their consumers, their clients, thought they could get it through retail, post-close, sort of. I mean, do you face that at all with your clientele?
Yes, people still are budget conscious. We're ranging from $1 million to $100 million, right? That $2 or $3 million buyer, they're budget conscious. The first thing that gets VE'd is technology because they can go on Amazon and buy stuff and they think it's going to work. And then they're calling us for service every, who knows how long, once or twice a month, and they're like, hey, my thing doesn't work. Well, you didn't use us.
But are you overcoming that? Are you getting to it's not the same thing? I mean, I think in a way, the technology industry suffers from this, right? Because there are a lot of retrofit solutions available that kind of sort of do the same thing, and they kind of sort of don't, but it's really hard for the consumer to understand the differences. Are you able to communicate effectively?
We're fortunate because the client comes to us. They're not going to an outside designer or architect, so we're able to steer that conversation and show them the ROIs, show them what you're going to get, how your home's going to work better. Yeah. We have that ability as a design builder, but if you're just a builder, you have to get with those designers early when that homeowner finally gives you that contract and say, hey, let's talk through this.
So the other thing I heard that sounded like a differentiator is systems versus like devices, right? Because when you're talking about these integrations, you're talking about major subsystems that are hanging out in the basement and in between the walls, and not stuff that gets lick and stick on the wall.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that's changed in the last 5 years. If 10 years you guys saw me on stage, I was talking about we integrate with this device and that device. Oh, and Nest thermostat's coming out. We'll work with that. Or the Amazon Speak things, whatever, Alexas, right? All that smart devices, the Internet of Things was kind of taking over 5 and 10 years ago. And as manufacturers, that's what we had to address, right? But what was not being addressed was the bigger picture of the ecosystem. And generally, I would argue that it's still not being addressed today unless you have an expert level technology guy, coming in and saying, hey, we are thinking about your HVAC system. We are thinking about your solar system. We are thinking about your audio video system as well. We're thinking about everything holistically. And so I think that's just the next progression of where you're going to see the world go, right? We go from, okay, we've created a smart system. We've created a smart home automation system. Great, iPad came out. Now we have an app for it. Awesome. Now these smart devices came out. How do we connect with them? Okay, now we've got that figured out, right? So there's always going to be a progression, and manufacturers are always going to try and tackle whatever the next big thing is because that's what they do. They're innovative companies.
I'm thinking about, after CES every year, which is the Consumer Electronics Show, the articles in the Wall Street Journal are, what's new with home gadgets? Gadgets, right? Like devices and gadgets, we're not in a good place if they're thinking devices and gadgets, right? Because that's not major systems installation work. That doesn't need to be engineered. It's a gadget, right?
Yeah, I feel that, at least for me anyway, I've moved on from gadgets and the little smart devices that come out that pop out all the time. The question is, are those companies going to stay in business? You guys know who the real deal manufacturers out there across all the different products you guys use in your homes.
But we got to disavow the consumer of that, right? And it ain't easy because there's a bunch of legacy communications, and even some of the biggest of the big tech players, they have more of a gadget approach to this, right? The Apple HomeKit is basically an accessory for an iPhone. And so that's being promulgated out there among the consumers all the time. And then they're going to think, what is all this design and engineering about a set of gadgets or something that's an accessory to my phone? So it's really a communications challenge that, God bless you for getting them to the right place.
Well, we're fortunate also enough to have a partnership with Savant, and we have a show home in Southern Nevada where we're able to walk them through and show them every single thing that we can do with those controls. Not everybody has that showroom, but that's the changing of the narrative. No longer go Google what's the best way to control my house. Walk through this one, and is this what you want? We walk up to a door, it opens automatically, we slide through. We have a question.
How much do the consumers know when they walk in that showroom?
Well, they know by the time they leave the show home, they know everything they didn't know, if that makes sense.
Are they confused a bit?
I'm sure every time somebody new walks through that home, there's limitations, right? We don't know what they don't know, but there's limitations to whatever they've had in the past. And our sales team actually is really good at showing all of that off. So hopefully they know everything by the time they walk out of there, and they probably scratch their head and go, I think that's worth a little bit of time and money to make my home operate like this one does.
Yeah. And how that's presented is it's not presented as, hey, everybody, welcome to the Savant Experience Center, right? We have one in New York City, which is very much a Savant Experience Center. The one in Nevada is very much a Blue Heron design build experience. There's no Savant commercials. The first time I walked through that building, I'm usually pretty quick to discover or see where the technology is hidden. And Aaron Guten, who was doing the tour, a Savant employee, he said, I'm like, man, I figured there'd be like touch panels around this house. He's like, Dan, you've walked by 8 of them. I'm like, holy crap, I've walked by 8 touch panels. Usually I would pick those out in plain sight, and they're clearly hidden. So it wasn't a Savant commercial when you walk through there. It's like, this is how you access the home. Let's talk about access control. If you notice in the ceiling, there's this ceiling bar here. You'll notice the light changes color based on time of day. This is how we how we change color at their temperature or track the circadian rhythm. You'll notice in this theater, there's this beautiful 300,000 TV, but you'll also notice the sound quality is all hidden in invisible speakers, right? So that homeowner, as they're walking through, as they're experiencing a fully intelligent home without brands being thrown at them, right? They truly don't know it's a Savant home until eventually the tour guide says, and all of this is powered by Savant. Check out the application that is the home management system for this home.
That's right.
So,
Is this making sense out there? Okay.
and that's the same way we approach it at Responsive Living as well. We are not a product-focused company. It's for the first time in my life, I get to be generally unbiased. I'm focused on products that I know are going to work, right? And it's not about a specific product. If that builder or electrician is using Lutron, great, they're going to use Lutron. If the homeowner decides they want to put a home automation or home management system on top of that, we're going to make sure that that home automation system works really well with Lutron, right? If they want to put in a Mitsubishi HVAC system and they want to incorporate it, and they have several homes around the world and they want to access all of them, then we're going to make sure that we provide them a home management system, home automation, that works with those systems that are in that
A
home.
tech home.
Tech home. Yes, it's tech home.
We should really brand something tech home.
Yeah, we should.
Well, if I could circle back for a second, you were
Yeah.
talking about gadgets and homeowners doing it themselves or at least picking out their own components. And I think a big part of that conversation that's missing is we don't talk enough about keeping it working. We talk about getting it working. We don't really talk about keeping it working. And I think on that side of the room, I think Graham asked the question, if you ask a homeowner to name a device they purchased that didn't work out quite the way they expected, they probably have a laundry list of those devices. And now start putting them together and multiplying it in some sort of scale that fits in a 5, 10, 15, 20,000 square foot home. When they start to visualize what that might look like, when their network doesn't support the number of devices they've got, or that one device drops offline, or something goes a little awry with their network, who are they going to call? They might call the builder, they might call the integrator. If they chose not to hire an integrator or they chose not to follow the integrator's recommendations, now what? Now I'm sort of on my own, and I bought these devices online. I have these Nest thermostats that I can't quite figure out, or my network's not doing what it's supposed to do. I've got to take it all apart, or now I've got to go call the integrator to come in and figure it out after my house is complete. And that's a really, really bad feeling for somebody to spend that kind of money on a home that you're building.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And the types of home you guys are building, an integrator, your professional contractor that did the technology, the last thing they want is to go service something that person bought off Amazon, right? So they're going to charge.
Not going.
Yeah.
We're not going.
They're going to charge them a nice little
not
fee
going.
to go out there and fix that small problem. So,
Okay, let's talk about an ideal here. I mean, I think we
yeah,
got
so you guys get the
Greg-
point. There's a mess that we're trying to clean up, right? And I think at the end of this conversation, I really want to focus in on ROI, right? Because we understand that technology, whether it's the physical technology, the TVs or the speakers or the lighting control, tend to be the first thing that are value propositioned out.